So it is the case when we're dreaming at night. We're convinced that there's an actual world, that there's actual people, actual things, independent phenomena, independent from us observing it, from, let's say, the field of experience or experience. But then when we wake up, we realize, oh, I heard sounds, but I had no ears. I saw a world, but I had no eyes. I touched another human being. I had sex with that human being, or I was in a fight with that human being, yet I had no body. I tasted delicious food, yet I had no tongue. I really thought that I was experiencing something that existed with something that existed. Now, the means that we have in the dream are the same as the means that we have here, which is consciousness, experiencing. Again, if we bring it back down to its most naked observation, when we're dreaming at night, it's the mind, you could say, or consciousness, having an experience. Consciousness and perception, consciousness and perception, consciousness and perception. Can you find any other means in the waking state? Without assuming, because even I have a brain as a real thing is an assumption if we gauge it by direct experience. Now, we've all been told this, we can dissect each other and see that there's a brain that does this and that. So one might reason that there is a brain. But again, if we go to our direct experience and we only stay with what we can verify, what we can know for sure, then in my experience, all we can say is that I am, I know that I am, and I have the perception of experiences. I can't say I've ever experienced a thing itself. I can only say that I have experienced experiences. So if we look deeper into this and we begin to sort of open ourselves to this recognition of that which is not confined to any of our objects of perception, but which is here right now hearing my voice. There is a quality that cannot be described by any of our science books. They cannot be described by studying history. That cannot be described by studying biology. It's the indisputable fact that you hear what I'm saying right now. And it's not even so much that you hear what I'm saying, it's the fact that you know that you hear what I'm saying. And that cannot be described. Me hearing you could be described, oh, I have a brain wired to the ears. Sound is produced from your body and travels through the air, makes vibrations, I catch it and I interpret it and I have the experience of sound. But what cannot be described by any biology or world of science, at least thus far, is how come I can know that I hear what you're saying. Perception can be described, and the means of different categories of perceptions to extent can be described, but the mystery of being, the mystery of existing, the mystery of existence, the mystery of I am conscious and I know that I am, cannot be described, cannot be defined. We can try to, but it will never be the actual thing. The original purity of the essential knowing nature of the mind or self cannot be put into any form or mold without losing its truth. It can be described, but then it's another experience that it is having. So if we consider the self to be the container, perhaps, and that's a bit of an assumption, but that's sort of a description that you could come up with through direct investigation, where the self, or I am, is recognized to be the essential, kind of like a container, not with edges and dimensions and stuff, but acts as a container does, as space does to objects, so does the self, or the essential knowing nature of being, of I am, the essential knowing nature of perception, essentially the essential knowing nature, that originally pure, empty nature that cannot be disputed, of I exist. When it's recognized, it can be experienced directly, not by the senses, but directly, as the space of which the realm of perception, including what we term objects, is actually made of or consists of. So container, essence, space, those are analogies for the essential nature of mind. In some Buddhist teachings, they call this the citta, C-I-T-T-A. And I like that word for some reason, because it doesn't mean anything to us. So citta, to give it some meaning, would be the essential knowing nature of mind, the essential knowing nature of this moment. And in essence, in its truest state, this essential knowing nature of mind is nothing but pure knowing, without knowledge. It is pure knowing, like a void that radiantly, spontaneously, intrinsically, mysteriously knows. It is pure knowing, knowing itself. Not knowing as a brain or as a this or as a that, because those are perceptions that can be transcended, that can be deconstructed, that can be understood to the point of their dissolution. Dissolution doesn't mean the table disappears per se, although it can too, in perception anyway. But it means that the solidity of it, that is attributed through assumption, through years of uninvestigated assuming, based on sense, object, living, day to day, conditioning yourself, bumping into things. I'm this body, I'm this, I feel this, Without investigating the essential nature of that perception over and over again, leaving it uninvestigated, it forms a reality of its own in the back of our minds. And now we think we're relating to this thing that is independently real. We now think of phenomena as independently real. Whereas if we bring it back to direct experience, we see that it is a myth, that it is an assumption. And since the quest for truth requires us to minimize our assumptions and to increase the pristineness, the purity of our direct perception, our ability to perceive directly, which is what meditation is for. Therefore, the journey is a process of purifying the filter of mind, the lens of perception, the sense of me, basically. Because the sense of me is based on whatever you perceive and assume about what you perceive. So if you investigate directly, not only will your lens of perception purify itself, become more transparent to the way things actually, mysteriously, indisputably are, directly, but also, therefore, your sense of self will make great changes, go through transitions. This is why spirituality or self-discovery is a bit of a scary journey for a lot of minds that are dependent, that have grown dependent, reliant for their sense of self on the way they currently assume things to be. That's why it takes courage to investigate our assumptions about perception, about the world, about each other, about phenomena.